Hi, this is Gary Rosenzweig with another squeaky clean episode of MacMost Now. Hey, check this out. Brand new keyboard. Or is it a brand new keyboard? Actually, this is a pretty old keyboard. I just put it through the dishwasher. Let me tell you about it on this episode. You may want to wash your keyboard because you spilled something on it, or maybe just because it's plain dirty. Kinda like this one. Oof. So this is one of those great new super thin aluminum keyboards that I love so much. This is actually the one I used every day for probably about the last 5-6 months or so. But last week I kind of spilled something on it. Didn't break it, but it did make it kind of sticky on some of the keys. They wouldn't kind of pop back up as quickly. So seeing how I use it all the time for everything I do online, I went and got myself another keyboard. And then I said, let me see if I can save this one. So I stuck it in the dishwasher, as I have done so many times before with so many different keyboards. Difference is, this aluminum keyboard from Apple doesn't really open up in any way. I always relied on the fact that I could put the keyboard in the dishwasher, and then when it was done, I could open up the keyboard and let it dry. This one I couldn't. I had to basically hope that it dried on its own. So the process I've used in the past with keyboards is put it in the dishwasher as is. Then when it's done, undo all the screws, open up the keyboard as much as you can, especially separating the plastic sheets that are usually inside a keyboard, put a fan on it and let it dry. I rely a lot on Colorado's very dry climate to help it dry. I know in more humid climate it can take much longer, but I've been able to dry keyboards basically overnight with a fan on them, and they work just fine. So the result with this keyboard was it didn't work fine overnight. I mean, I couldn't open it up, so I just turned a fan on it, let it sit overnight. It certainly didn't work the next morning. Everything I hit seemed to be some sort of function key or combination of keys. So I let it basically sit with the fan for about 2 or 3 days, and then I tried it, and it worked great. So it does work with this keyboard, but be warned, it worked for me, may not work for you. There certainly is a risk factor when washing a keyboard. So here's a couple of ways to minimize the risk. So the first thing you want is you do not want to wash your main keyboard. So in other words, if your keyboard's broken or too dirty to use, get another keyboard. This is your backup keyboard, and if it works, great. Hey, free keyboard. Second thing is be prepared to lose the keyboard completely. I mean, just write it off. Keyboard's not going to work, right? And if it does work, great. Third thing is be prepared to let it sit and dry for a long time, because chances are if it's not working, the reason is there's water trapped in it. The water eventually should evaporate. I mean, if the water got in there, it should be able to get out. So if it doesn't work after 3 days, 5 days, a week, who knows? You may need to put it away somewhere in a nice, warm, dry place and check it again in a month. One thing you should consider anyway is having a backup keyboard at all times. You can get USB keyboards for as little as $7 at some stores or online. So have a backup keyboard somewhere, or maybe you just have one from an old Mac or an old computer or something. If you have a backup keyboard, you know you won't miss any time on your computer if you happen to spill something on it or it just inexplicably breaks. I mean, think about it. If you could have your entire computer, just a duplicate of it, ready to go at a moment's notice for only $7, wouldn't you? Well, keyboard's the same way. I mean, if it's your only keyboard and it breaks, for $7, you can keep going a minute later. Apple keyboards are notoriously hard to work on. I mean, this one's got no screws in it. Previous versions have had either no screws or very few screws or not enough screws to actually get to the material inside the keyboard. But third-party USB keyboards sometimes are very easy to open up and get into. The keyboard I used before this one actually was very comfortable. It was pretty cheap. I think it cost me about $20. And I could open it up and have complete access to everything. So I could dry it after dishwashing it in probably an hour. Matter of fact, I probably ran it through the dishwasher a dozen times. Also consider just cleaning your keyboard off with a very slightly damp cloth with maybe some rubbing alcohol in it. Alcohol cleans just as well as water, and it dries much quicker. And you can always get yourself a keyboard cover if you find your keyboard's always getting dirty. For instance, if one of your hobbies is working on cars and your other hobby is playing on your computer, you'll probably find that your keyboard needs to be cleaned constantly. So cleaning keyboards in the dishwasher does work, but you just have to use some caution and just not rely on it. And just in case you were thinking about it, don't wash your MacBook keyboard in the dishwasher. Do you see the problem with that? Okay. Well, until next time, this is Gary Rosenzweig with MacMost Now.